guys hear me?
Yep.
Yeah,
All right.
Yeah.
our
That's,
recording in progress.
All right.
How you doing? We'll give you a second to settle in there.
All right. Sorry about that. I had some technical difficulties.
No problem.
yep.
We're all ready to go. Yeah, you look good. You got a good camera. You got good lighting.
Good.
Yeah.
I need all the help I can get.
Uh, that's what I said. I still got wet hair. I've been out walking in the rain. I thought
Oh
it'd
yeah.
dry before, but it's getting there. But it's still fairly warm. And so I thought, man, while it's raining and it's warm, I'm gonna go out and walk around.
Yeah. Well, that's good. It's cold and damp here.
Whew.
So,
I saw the snow. I love that. That
Yeah,
that
you went
just
for a snow walk. Well, that was
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, we got well, not so much in town, but up in the mountains we got pummeled with snow the past few days. So,
wow.
yeah.
Okay, you guys, is everybody ready to go live?
Yep.
Yeah.
5, 4, 3, go live with me.
Oh,
Yeah, starting. Video is starting. And we're live now. Hello, everybody. Thanks for showing up. Pork and Beans with Arla Colette Williams and Sam Chandler. It's going to be a good show.
and Michael Harrell.
And Michael Harrell, well, that goes without saying.
Right.
But I'm so famous it's the facial recognition. That's all you need. Mr. Beans.
Oh, the handsomest man in the world.
Yeah, I made a little flyer for the show, and on the flyer, what does it say here? I have open. Let me see, open. Come on, little flyer. It says the Pork and Beans Live with Sam Chandler, and then at the very bottom, under Sam Chandler, I have the Mother Earth connection.
Yeah.
So I thought that would be a good theme for today's show because you had some really nice posts a couple of days ago, maybe it was last week, about Mother Earth and the Mother Earth connection, and just thought that'd be a good place to start.
For sure. Yeah, it's a very important topic right now.
So
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe we should start at some kind of start because I don't know, you're the most famous person to us, but I don't know how many other people know who Sam Chandler is. So why don't you tell a little bit of background story about how you got into the Sasquatch world?
Hmm. You want short version or long version?
Whatever you feel like.
Um,
Whatever you got, whatever you feel like, yeah.
let's see. Okay, we'll stick with this lifetime then. uh, yeah, so I guess long story short, so to speak, I guess around the time I was eight, well, I was eight. I mean, 8 years old. I had my first Sasquatch encounter or sighting, which happened in my bedroom. So definitely not like your normal, Sasquatch encounter. So, um, 8 year old me had a lot to take in and process, which was a very overwhelming at the time, caused me to kind of shut down a lot of stuff because I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't have anyone to speak with at that time.
When you
So
say you showed up, could you gotta fill that in a little bit? Was it an orb that turned into a Sasquatch, or did he walk through the wall, or
no,
just wake up and
it
he was standing there?
Yeah, basically. So I was this was in the summertime, so it was still somewhat light outside, and so it was probably like 9-ish, I want to say. And I was laying in my bed, and the light coming through like the blinds and the window still had a little bit of luminescence or whatever in the room, so I could still see. And my eyes had adjusted and everything, and I heard something, and I looked, and to my right, a little bit diagonally, there was a dresser, and and so I saw like a head come up over the dresser and looked at me, and I looked at it, and I was like, "What?" And it was, like a furry or hairy head, but it had like, I mean, the hair was like, you know, young Einstein. I don't know if you guys ever remember that movie. So it was just kind of like crazy hair, and it just smiled at me and laughed. But it was a little one. It wasn't like a full grown. I mean, it was maybe 4 foot tall, and it just kind of laughed, and it scared me to death. And I I remember closing my eyes and just being like, "What is that? What is that? What is that?" And then when I opened my eyes up again, it wasn't there anymore. And so that I didn't know what it was at the time, because like I lived in Virginia and I have anything to base it on. Uh, and my little bit of knowledge at that point of Sasquatch was Patty, like that was pretty much all I knew. And so as far as I knew, that was something that existed on the other side of the country. And
Were you in the woods or are you in the city?
I was in the suburbs of Washington, D.C. when that happened.
Wow, wow. So that's not exactly
No,
the
exactly. Right.
the
Yeah. And
wild
we
yeti
had,
was in your backyard. So that's pretty cool, actually.
yeah, and we had a lot of woods in our backyard. Like our backyard was into the forest, and there was, I mean, I guess about as much forest as you can have in the suburbs. So I would say maybe 100 acres or so of forest. Um, and now, we all know that it doesn't matter how much, you can have an acre of forest, and there's still potential for somebody to be there. Um, so yeah, and then that was the same year that I was also starting to go to a cabin in Canada, and there's no coincidences now, but that was a whole other journey where I started to experience a lot of um, Sasquatch and dogmen and star people and paranormal stuff, a lot of spirit activity and things like that. And so that was kind of like my introduction to all of this, I guess you could say. And then I kind of tried to ignore it for a long time, and because everyone else that I was with also tried to play it off as if like nothing was happening there and it was all normal stuff. And then around 2010, I guess I kind of decided that I was going to start really like looking into it more. And that's when the activity around me started to kind of increase. And I started experiencing more things that just didn't make sense to me, and expanded my opportunity to like look into it more, I guess you could say. And then I started to get a little bit more courage. So I would go out and camp by myself and try to figure out what was going on. And then I had a experience in 2012. Um, again, we could do a whole show on this stuff. You know what I mean? We're trying to break all this stuff down. But I have an experience in 2012 in which I was camping by myself, and I was laying in my hammock, and my head was facing north, my feet were facing south, and there was two sets of wolves, like two wolf packs, and they were howling on either side of the lake. So I was just laying in my hammock listening to them howl. And then behind me, I heard a tree break, excuse me, and just like that crack and then noise. And I knew there was somebody behind me, and I had suspected that there was Sasquatch over there because of some things that had happened in previous years. And so I just was like, okay, this is what you came here for. This is what you wanted to experience. So I laid there and kind of calmed my nerves down. And then I was just laying there quietly. And then I felt like a fingertip on the top of my head, like right on my crown chakra. And this like burst of energy just came through my body.
Holy
And
moly.
yeah, and it went through my feet and then back up out of my head. And there was a message in it, and it said, get out of here. And I was like, no, no, this is what you came here for, so you're gonna have to push through this fear. And so again, another energy rush came through my body, came back out, and it said, get out of here now. And I said, no, 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 you're not going to get scared off. You're just, you're going to have to push through this fear. So I toughed it out, and I was like, you're going to do this. Just stay here, calm down. And then it came through again. But this last time it came through like really intensely. And like you could feel it like on a molecular level, cellular level, just like everything was tingling. And this time the message said, get out of here now or you're going to die. And so I took that one a little more serious. And I said, okay, maybe there is something to this and maybe I should listen to it. And so I had this like little two-way radio that I had in the little sack part of my hammock, and it was my dad had the other one, and he was down at the other end of the lake in the cabin. And so it was just for an emergency if I needed to get, in touch with them or they needed to get in touch with me. And that two-way radio started to make all these crazy noises. It started going like and like all this static, and that freaked me out more than anything, to be honest. And so I said, okay, I'm leaving. I don't want to deal with this anymore. And so I jumped up and I left all my stuff there, and I just got in my boat and just tore down the lake. Well, I mean, as fast as a 9 horsepower engine can tear down a lake, But so the trip from where I was camping to the other end of the lake where the boats are stored is it's about a mile and a half or so. And so while I was putzing down the lake, it was like a crystal clear night, and the moon was out, and I remember the sky had like a greenish hue to it, and I was just looking up in the sky, and it was this feeling of I don't want to say dread, but it was just this feeling of I was waiting for someone or something to come out of the sky and grab me and just snatch me out of the boat. It was like this, I guess it was just vulnerability. That's the most vulnerable I've felt uh, at any point in my life was that. And then I got back to the cabin and went to sleep. Nothing ever happened from that. Well, I didn't get snatched out of the boat, I guess. But so yeah, that was my introduction to the world of Sasquatch, and I went back home to Georgia. That's where I was living at the time, and then it really started going up, and that's where I met Arla and everyone there, and Ginger and Keith and everyone, and yeah, it's just all been a really exciting journey.
Well, I have another question about the first visual contact you had when you were 8 years old. You
Hmm.
said there was a dresser there. I mean, like
Yeah,
a chest of drawers.
yeah.
Was the chest of drawers up against the wall? In other words, where did the head come up? Was it away from the wall or sideways or something? How
It
could the
it
head
was
come up behind there?
it was kind of angled, so where my bed was, there was like a desk, and then there was the dresser, and then there was a door. So it was kind of between the door and the dresser, but the door was closed. Yeah. So it wasn't necessarily, I don't remember it being between a wall or anything like that. The angle seemed to be from the other side of the dresser.
So you could actually get behind the dresser.
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing is very hard to comprehend mentally, like it just didn't, none of it really makes sense, I guess. Um, so that was another element to it that made it really hard to digest, like what the hell was that? But Uh, it's not, I mean, it was uh, not imagination. I'm at a lack for words of what I would call it right now, but it was
It was your
intent.
introduction.
Yeah, it just I mean,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it's
yep,
just there's no build up to it. There was no like, hey, some you know what I mean, something's gonna
yes,
happen tonight. It was just like,
yep,
what is what is that? You know?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and yeah, and no matter what, if you have no reference for something, it is kind of scary, and and you don't know what you're dealing with. And that's why people have scary encounters, is because they don't understand what it is that they're dealing with. And if you have no reference, then you're really at a loss as to try to figure out, even, what was that I saw.
Right.
Why do you think that your encounter with them when you were camped, why do you think it was done in that manner where they had you to leave?
I've rolled that around in my head ever since. And I've come to different answers to it, which I don't know if there's necessarily one concrete answer. Uh, only thing there was a bunch of different things going on at that time. So at that moment, that was the weekend, or no, it was the week before the moose hunt for that area. So these are like the different ideas that I've come up with. So ideally, I've wanted to go back there to that exact same place, and I know I can do this here, but it's just a thing I want to do. I want to go back there
Yeah,
to that same place, and I want to uh, ask then at that place. So in the meantime, I've come up with, so that was the first week before moose season, and there were hunters that were on the land that were getting ready to poach, and they're not supposed to be there. And so at the time, I took it as maybe they were confusing me with a hunter and thinking that I was not supposed to be there. So they were telling me to leave. And then I've come to the idea that there was something else going on there that they were protecting me from.
yeah, yeah,
And that to me seems to be more of what I got it from, or got the idea of what was going on.
yeah, yeah,
And there was also a part of me that says that they were testing me.
yeah.
Um, so it could have been everything. But
Yeah.
the thing that I often forget about is that the following year I went back to that place. And I went and I got the boat and I went to that campsite. I went up, and so in that, it's not really a campsite per se, it's just a clearing between a bunch of trees, and there's a little place where I made a fire pit. So I tied the boat up. I walked up to that area because I just wanted to kind of like get a good look around and get like a feel for everything and just go back. And when I got to that area, there was a blue jay, fully intact blue jay that was deceased, and it was laying right in the middle of where, like right underneath where my hammock was.
Mhm.
And that was um that just, I don't know how to explain that part. I just looked at it and it was just laying on its back, like totally peacefully. And I know it had been placed there. It wasn't like it just fell, you know. And so that meant a lot to me. It was kind of like a confirmation, and almost like a peaceful it was just like a gift, you know.
Yeah. You know, Blue Jay has a lot to say.
Yeah,
And they have no problem saying what it is that they want to say. And that's, for you, knowing you, that you kind of struggled with uh, saying the things that
oh yeah,
you're supposed to be saying. And
constant
so,
struggle. Yeah,
Blue Jay, he's fearless in doing that.
Right.
even sometimes when he's overpowered by something else, he still is expressing himself. So I would say Blue Jay is probably really important
Right.
energy for you.
Yeah.
We were talking about uh, squirrels falling out of trees before you came on,
Mhm.
and things like that. Things like you could a lot of people could go their whole life and not really have a squirrel fall out of a tree next to them. You know,
Right.
and it's the same thing with that bird. You could probably walk around the woods for years, and if maybe if you walked your whole life, you might have one, or you might find one or two birds that have just died. Because usually
Right.
you would never find them; they'd be covered with ants,
Mhm.
or the predator would have got them. So that, to me, that was a really powerful statement there.
Yeah.
Yeah. There
And
was.
I would wonder if you were going to die, how many different ways could you die up there? One would be hunters. What would be other ways that you could die? And
Yeah.
possibly the Sasquatch could kill you, or some other Sasquatch, something like that. But how many ways could you die up there?
At the cabin.
Yeah, yeah,
Like as a.
at the camping place where you got told to get out.
Oh, I got you. Well, like from the physical sense, like worldly dangers, it would be wolves, um, hunters, and I guess cougar, bobcat, something like that, or moose, definitely moose, but not so much at night. Um, so yeah, they're warning if it comes for like if you think of it as them trying to protect me from something, it wasn't like a I didn't take it as if it was like a an animal danger. It was more something that was I don't know, maybe some spirit something or whatever because there is some areas up there and that just have like a very dark feeling to them, specific areas in those woods. Um, and I don't know. And again, I haven't been back there since 2016, so I don't know what it would be like if I went there now. If I went there now, I think it would feel different. I think a lot of
Yeah.
that was just my fear at that
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I really hope that I can make it back up there someday because I feel like now it would be a totally different experience. And I have a lot of questions. I have like 40 years of questions that I need to ask there. But I mean, again, and I know I can ask those questions now. This is just a thing. This is just a me
Yeah.
thing. I want to go there and ask the questions. So,
There is something about being on that physical place where these things happen. And it becomes, something special.
mhm.
And I know for me, in my first encounter, I can go right back to the very place, where that was. I can go all over that area. And true, my grandparents lived in that area, but there's just something about it to go and stand where that happened.
Right.
And so, yeah, I totally understand wanting to go back to that place.
Yeah,
And
there's information imprint of
mm,
some sort left on the ground in your body.
Right.
But this whole
Yeah.
thing, the whole thing of those three rushes of energy that went through your whole body, that's like I'm not quite sure how to say it, but sort of some kind of that's like it's it's a psychic phenomenon that the Sasquatch and other beings can do. It's not, to give you an actual visual feeling of fear or a feeling of energy moving through the body. That's
Yeah.
really powerful. That comes in the category of like people talk about the ultrasound where something came through their body and then they felt sick to their stomach or they felt anxious or they got laid out for a few days. That's one
Yeah.
form but there's other forms where people just feel fear like they never felt before. That's another form of it.
Yeah.
So,
This was it was like a combination of everything, every emotion, every feeling. It was I think it was my Kundalini opening, my Kundalini awakening. So what it felt like to me was like a Shakti pot, where just a Kundalini awakening, but it all happening at once, kind of unexpected. Um, much like my experience as an 8-year-old, just kind of out of nowhere. So the whole thing was, if I had been prepared for it, sure, I would have been like, here it comes, and I would have known. But just, I'm just laying in my hammock in the quiet, and all next thing I know, like my whole body's just like, just like, and it's like, what was that? But just 3 times, back to back to back. So
well, so that's a whole different thing. So you're saying it was a self-induced or self-inflicted,
I don't know. I mean, because I
rather,
could feel
rather
it.
than something coming from the outside.
That's the thing, because I could feel whatever it was coming through my crown chakra. So it was coming through the top of my head. So that's why I liken it to a Kundalini awakening and a Shakti pot, because I know that a lot of Shakti pot imaging that I've seen, it's usually like third eye crown type stuff where they can push, the guru or the master can push the energy through. And so just the sense that I had something either touching or just like um focusing all the energy into my crown chakra is what made it feel like a Kundalini awakening to me, or
This
what I would have.
high spiritual category.
Yeah,
It's like master, true guru kind of a stuff, uh,
right.
angelic or divine energy. It's a high category of energy.
I have some knocking in the corner of my room right now, so somebody's saying something.
uh,
Someone's over there.
Oh, that's totally cool.
yeah.
Hey, folks, welcome to Pork and Beans.
uh, so
Ah,
yeah,
Like
so
maybe
have
they like us talking about that. And I see
they do.
you have Krishna in the background there.
yes sir, yes sir.
Where do
Yeah.
you want to go with this today? I know that there's things been coming to you, and you've been sharing those things
Mhm.
on Facebook and other places, I would guess. But
Right.
what is it now that you feel uh, it is going on for you and where you're supposed to be?
um where to start? uh Man, I'm trying to find a good place to go to start off with this. My messaging, I guess, that I've been receiving, or the stuff that I've been kind of told to emphasize my messaging on right now at this point, is about how we're kind of at an inflection point right now, where there's a, I don't know necessarily, like, again, I don't get the full picture here, but I get like just a little bit, because I guess if I were to get the full picture, it would infer free will. So I have to just take what little messaging I'm getting, and the idea that I'm getting now is that we're at an inflection point. There's like a split about to occur, and I don't know if it's a timeline split or if it's just or I don't know exactly what it is, but I get the feeling that's what it is. Or there's like a dominant timeline, and it's either about to go another way, or other timelines are going to merge into a dominant timeline. But it's basically that there are like the forces that used to be the ones that used to kind of control the narratives that take place on planet Earth, on Mother Gaia, is they have lost grasp, they've lost power. And the more of us that awaken, the less power they have, because we start to realize our power, come into our power, and realize how they've been manipulating humanity for millennia, essentially, thousands of years. And they really only know control through manipulation and through tricking us into giving our power away and stuff like that. Much like a vampire, where like if you have to give permission to the vampire to come into your house in order for them to have any kind of control over you or any kind of power against you. So with them, what they do is they trick us into giving our power away and allowing them to use us to get what they want. And so the more of us that awaken to this during this mass awakening that we're going through right now, the less power they have. So each person by person that's happening, and it's happening on such a grand scale right now, just like everybody's slowly waking up. They're losing control, and they know this, so they're desperate at trying to keep power, and they're using any way that they can to try and trick us. And so we all are very well aware of like how they've used the media forever to trick us and to lie to us. And what they do is they create like a narrative or a story that they want to force feed us through the media and get us to manifest it. So we see it, we believe it, we feed energy into it, and then we act on it as if it's really happening. And then that's how we create these narratives and scenarios on the planet. And we've caught on to that, right? So now they're using different tactics. And so they know that conspiracy theories in general, conspiracies are real. We know that. So I don't want to say that all conspiracy theories are fake. They're not. And the reason that we can attach ourselves to conspiracy theories is because conspiracies have been proven real before. And so they know now they can use conspiracy theories to feed us this misinformation in order to create these things that they want, that we don't. And so my messaging over the past couple months and weeks is just like, don't believe this stuff so easily and readily. Don't take it as face value. You need to take the information, because there is some truth in a lot of the stuff that they're presenting to us, but they're just overemphasizing certain things, twisting certain things, leaving out certain things, so they manufacture and produce it in a way where it seems legit. And so you're like, wow, okay, well, I guess that's real. But no, we're meant to take the information and kind of sit with it. Don't react to it. Don't repost it immediately and be like, this is unbelievable, because as quickly as social media you can do that stuff. I mean, they can take that information, make a meme or something out of it, put it on the internet, and then boom, 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 boom. It's just repost. And that it could happen so fast. And it might not create a dominant timeline, but it can create like one of these little side timelines that can take energy away from the main objective, I guess you want to say. So discernment is very important. Sitting with information that we're receiving and going inside with it, and just sitting quietly, listening to your intuition, listening to guides, guardians, whoever's there to help you, and kind of and your heart. I won't say gut, because there's still fear that is attached to the gut area. So I would say look past the fear part of it and just go with your heart, and your heart's going to guide you in your right direction. So even if it like, say it's conspiracy theory, say about, I don't know, like a nuclear war or something, and you can feel in your gut the fear, and you want to protect yourself in whatever way you can, and you're using the fear instead of listening to your heart, and your heart says like, look, man, there might be some truth to this, but don't act in a way that might harm you further, just thinking that you need to protect yourself from this supposed nuclear war. I don't know if this makes any sense to anybody else.
Yeah.
And most of our fears are based off dying. I mean, when you get down to the root of most fears, it's about death or dying, right? So we're just trying to protect ourselves from dying. And I think that it gets to a point where you have to just work with yourself, get through your fears, and get to the point where like you're okay with dying. And then that way they have no power over you. Nobody has power over you. If you're okay and you faced your fears and you're okay with dying, and that's like the worst case scenario of anything that can happen, nobody can touch you. Nobody can do anything to you. You're like, you're not going to tell me what to do. I'm not falling for it. You know, like if I have to die, I have to die. Like I'm not going to feed into this crap anymore. Uh, so I hope that touched on kind of what I'm
Yeah.
receiving. Because I've spent the last, I mean, honestly, since 2012, since that incident, working on myself and trying to figure out the big picture of what am I? What's my place in this world? Who are these things and that I'm interacting with that I was never told about as a child, you know?
Well,
And
I love what you're saying, so keep going.
yeah, well, yeah.
If you
So,
got more, then lay it all out there because I think you're on point.
um, because that's honestly like from my first experiences with the Sasquatch people, that has been the general direction of what my teachings have been. They've been about uh finding myself, finding out who I am, and what my connections are with everything and everyone and with Mother Gaia. And the cool thing about this path is the more people that I've met that have like these very similar experiences, and they're all different because we're all experiencing different realities, but they're all similar in nature. And each of us have a piece to this. It's not like we're each getting the full spectrum, because I think there's just so much that uh, it's almost impossible on this level to teach someone everything that's going on. So each of us have like this little piece of it, and my piece of this has been leading me in the direction of listening to Mother Gaia and my connection to her at this point. And like there's other things I've been kind of I found out about myself, but uh, like I came here to be here at this point with Mother to assist with her ascension process is like one of the things that I'm here to do, and I help humanity with her ascension process. And I don't want that to come across as like I'm like some, you know, super special guru person that is the only person that can help. That's not, because there's millions of us here right now helping. So I'm not special in this, but I recognize that this is my place here right now. And so my messaging is to just continue to assist everybody in this awakening process as much as I can, mostly with the people closest to me, my family, my friends, and each of us are supposed to kind of do that in our own little circles, tight knit circles. But you know, on a grander scale, the energy that we put out into supporting everything is just as important with strangers and people that we are around on a daily basis. And when I say Mother Gaia's ascension, what I'm saying is like this worldly experience that we're experiencing that, as a human, um, Mother Gaia herself is an entity, I guess you could say. Like Mother Gaia is alive. She is just as much alive as we are. Like she and all the other planets and everything are living entities. And so she is having her experience as well. And so when I started going out to nature as a child and just being able to live in the moment, and there's nothing else around to influence the experience that I can have at that moment in the woods, even till this day, just going up and just being removed from everything, everyone, and just being in the middle of the mountains or sitting on a lake that's just totally quiet, nobody around, you reminded, and you get to sit in just like how she's just doing her own thing. Mother Gaia is just doing her own thing. And we're the ones that throw all of our crap onto her. You know, we're the ones that throw all of our bullshit.
Yeah.
And so she's living her life. She's doing her thing. And we're affecting it in a way, even though in the grand scheme, like she's going to do her own thing. If she really wanted us off the planet, she would, you know, she'd do whatever she had to do to get us off the planet. But she loves us. And there's a connection between us and her, and she knows that. So she doesn't want to do that. And she's moving up. She's raising her vibration. And we have the opportunity to go with her. And we're making that decision. So when I say there's like a split, what I'm kind of getting at is we get to make the decision of whether we want to join her on this ascension or whether we don't. And I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if there really is like going to be two realities where there's going to be like a lower dimensional Earth and then a higher dimensional Earth or whatever is going to happen. I don't know. I don't know that. All I know is that she has asked people to come help her raise her vibration, and humanity's vibration rising affects her vibration and how fast she can do it. And yeah, that's pretty much what I'm getting from them is, and from her. Because if you quiet down enough, you spend time in the woods enough,
Yeah, you
after a
do.
couple, you can hear her. She'll talk
Yep.
to you.
Yep. It's funny. Michael and I were talking before you came on, and it was very much that the mother, is a sentient being. She is our mother here. And the mother does what the mother does and
Mm-hmm.
has always done. And yes, we influence that. And it's interesting to me that the star people that I've been working with, they're here to help humanity as well, but they're primarily here to help the earth
Mm-hmm.
and work with the elements.
Right.
And, that says that, we're here, and those of us who know and are trying, to do the things that we need to do to help her, they're they're right there with us,
Yeah.
helping as well. So it's this huge family that's coming together, to help and to be a part of each other. I mean, you hold up your family,
Mm-hmm.
you hold them up and help them.
Yeah. Right. And when I say like part of our job here is to help our families, direct families, like to kind of, I was told this in 2019, to just focus on your family. Focus on your family. So my direct family, my parents, my kids, my wife, and everyone like that. But that's on a macro scale. On a micro scale, our family includes star people. It includes, the forest people, the elemental people, like everyone. So on a grander micro scale, yeah, we're supposed to help everyone, including Mother Gaia. And yeah, it's so she's basically allowing us to have this human experience, right? She's kind of made this beautiful place for us to manifest here, incarnate here into our bodies, our physical bodies, which are created from her elements, right? And so the manifestation process of our bodies takes 9 months in the womb of a mother. And then we're birthed into the world, and we take, I don't know what, a few years to even learn how to kind of operate this body, and then I don't even know how long. I mean, a lifetime to kind of get an idea of who we are again, in this body. And then if we're lucky enough to not get swayed off course by the powers that were, um, then we get to really understand what's going on. And it's beautiful. And uh yeah, it's just great. I can't express how grateful and thankful I am to to be where I am right now. to experience all this and be awakened to it and be open to it and like not live in fear of what could happen and just be able to see this. Man, this is just such a great time to be here, even though it sucks. And I'm not going to say it's like, all peaches and candy, because there's times where I'm just, it can get to you, but it's a really great time to be here right now.
It is. It is. And we have the fourth dimension now, which the dimensions are consciousness, I believe, and, not actually like a place or whatever. It's a consciousness that we hold. But it's like they've left the door and the light on in the fourth dimension, so that those of us who are looking and understanding can readily go there and feel that what you're talking about, that feeling of, oh my gosh, it's okay. And yes, we've got all these lessons, and all this homework to do and all these things going on, but it's okay. It's really more than okay.
Right. Yeah, we're gonna be fine. We're gonna be fine. Soul, spirit, essence, like your Atman, whatever you want to call it. You're gonna be fine, right? The body's temporary. Your incarnation here at this time is a temporary incarnation. So when we're kind of creating our narratives here and like what we're choosing to experience here, the understanding, like working on yourself, healing, what Michael touches on this all the time, right? This is his thing, is healing, going within and healing yourself, right? Going through all your traumas and tying up all those loose ends and doing your energy work and connecting with your true self and facing your fears. And then once you get through a lot of that stuff, you don't have to get fully healed, but once you get to a point where you aren't really afraid anymore, you kind of take everything that you've given your power away through your life, your childhood traumatic experiences that you've given power to that, right? And you keep recreating it and playing a victim to that. And there's no judgment. I'm not trying to like call people out or make you feel like, you're less than because of this, because every person here experiences this. It's part of the agreement that we make before we incarnate here. But once you can work through these things, you start taking little pieces of your power back. It's kind of like a Horcrux. And if anybody's watched like Harry Potter movies, in which Voldemort, the character, he's like defeated early, like before the story competes, but he puts little pieces of himself into objects and spreads them out all over the place. And so that way he can never fully die. And so he can come back and start to take his little pieces of himself to put himself back together, essentially, is what it represents. But that to me is a representation of how we give little bits of our power to things all the time. And the more you give it to other things, the less you have for yourself. When you heal, you're taking that back. No, I'm taking that back. You're not going to have control of me anymore. Like, nope, I'm not going to be scared of that anymore. I'm taking this back. And then you start to walk in that, and you're like, you get to a point, man, where you're just untouchable, because what's the worst that can happen? Your body dies. So what? Like, I'll go back to where we come from, which isn't even like an area or a place, like you were saying. It's right here. I mean, it's here. It's here. It's in your heart. The portal to that place is right here in your heart. So when I say you're talking, listen to your heart, what I'm saying is listen to your higher self, because it's right here. Like old saints, yogis, back in like Vedic scriptures, they talk about, it's called like the Guhayam, the Nihitim Guhayam, which is the heart cave, the hidden heart cave. And that's where the Atman, where your soul lives, is like a little area, not necessarily in your physical heart, but your energetic, your heart, your center. That's where you reside. And when you're listening to your heart, you're listening to your soul, you're listening to your higher self, that connection that's not filtered through your mind. There's no filter. It's pure, unadulterated you. Like, that's your guidance. It's not filtered through. So like when we walk through a world, everything is filtered through our perceptive lenses of our experiences and everything like that have created this like specific, almost like a lens. Like if you were to take Arla's lens or Michael's lens and just put it over a camera, and it only allows you to take in what Arla can see to like reinforce her belief system, her perspectives, so to speak. So like with me, everything I'm seeing in the world is just reflecting back to me what I want to reinforce my belief system. So like confirmation bias, such like that. And so when you can speak to yourself in your heart and follow your heart, it doesn't really have any filters. It's just, there's no worldly influence in it. It's just the message that comes from where you are, because you're multidimensional. You also reside on those other layers at the same time that you're here. So you just have to kind of sit quietly, which is what meditation teaches you to do. Shut all this other noise down and listen. Big messages I get. That's the messaging I
I'm
get.
with you 100% there. You know, one thing that came to me was that the there's a lot of people who really struggle with the difference between the inside of themselves and the outside of themselves. When you talk about the inside, the inner world, talking to your heart, talking to your higher self, they really don't have a clue. They don't have something that they can grasp on. They can grasp onto it. All it is just ideas to them. There's not a, you know, there's not a, but that's so slowly changing because so many people are doing meditation, so many people are doing transformative experiences. Because so
Right.
there's two different things. There's two different things. There's a spiritual experience. Oh, I see the light of God, or oh, my heart chakra opened up, or those are experiences. But that's not necessarily where you live. You live where your architecture is, where your baseline is. So like I'm living where I am right now. And it's not some great experience, but my understanding right now is that we're infinite and immortal. And we emerge from what was never created. And this is a big shift, and this is part of the shift that's going on. To say that you're immortal, you just have to look at the near-death experiences, story after story after story. There have been more than 5 million people who have died on the operating table and been brought back to life since the 1970s. 5 million is a lot. And those people, some of them remember their experience, and then some of them write books, and some of them talk on the, so we're immortal. And that needs to be made instead of an idea or some kind of experience. It needs to be made into a foundation in our house, who we are. We
Right.
are immortal beings. And the other thing is that we're infinite. And infinite is actually a big one because we're not used to thinking about that. But infinite, when you talk about remote viewing or channeling or any of the other spiritual experiences that people have, it's all the same kind of a complex, which is that we are connected. To be able to do remote viewing, you have to feel it inside. Wherever it is that you're going to, you can go to Mars or you can go to Jupiter and remote view that, but the feeling is inside. So we index infinity inside, and that is infinite power, infinite knowledge, infinite wisdom, infinite abilities, all these things. And if we can make our infrastructure, our house, into these two pillars of that we are immortal and that we are infinite. And what's important, why would you want to do that? Who cares? Well, who cares is that all of our suffering and all of our pain comes from, as you started off with saying, our mortal coil. We're afraid of the pain and pain that it would take that when you die, the pain of death. And there is no death.
Right.
So you have to build a house on that. That's some foundation. And the same thing when it goes to being infinite. So when you're going to go, once you have that infrastructure made, I'm infinite and I'm immortal, and everybody is infinite and immortal. Then you build a civilization based on that. You build a culture based on that. You build
100%.
a reality based on that. But first, you have to be able to walk around in those shoes and believe it. It's
Yeah.
you. That's who we are. That's who everything is. And that's not dramatic. That's not earth shifting. And yet it's what it and yet that's what happens. If you do your healing work, you're going to awaken that somewhere along the line that you're immortal. There is no death. And if there's no death, you better take care of your business, because how long do you want to keep on suffering over and over and over again? Because you know you're coming back. So it makes this like, a healthy groove of not repeating patterns. Yeah, so kind of be able to live in those shoes of infinity and immortality, because
Yeah.
that's the fundamental truth of who we are. And that's what was held from us for thousands of years.
Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
we've been told that death is final,
Right.
and
Right.
once you die, you die. You are not coming back. When the truth is, you is not what you see.
Right.
you know so yes, I it's not that we're coming back, it's that we're already there.
Yep.
We don't have to come back to it.
Right.
We're already there.
Right.
And I think the closest man has come, as far as Western religion is to tell us that we can have eternal life. But there are stipulations put
Right.
on having that
Right.
eternal life. When we're eternal, we're
Yeah.
immortal, we're eternal, we are infinite already as
Yep.
we are.
Right.
There's nothing we have to do or not do to make that be.
Right.
And there are times I get so excited, you know, uh, when I'm thinking about these things, or I'm in meditation, or I'm just in that space of quiet, and it's like, oh yeah, 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 I, yeah,
Yeah.
So and I see that happening for so many people now,
Mhm.
that just that the understanding, and that's part of the knowing Kashima talks about.
Yep. Yeah. Right.
Knowing.
Yeah. I just listening to you both talk, man, it's just like so much stuff I want to touch on, like everything that you guys mentioned. I'm like, yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, what's the original sin? What's the original sin that we're taught from this in this um and again, no judgment, but the Christian culture, right? That is kind of, we're not a Christian nation, but like, it's just around us like that. But the Christian notion of original sin, like you're born a sinner,
Yeah.
that's
Ouch.
a control mechanism. That is
Ouch.
100% a control mechanism. And I don't want to offend, I'm not trying to offend Christians right now. I'm just trying to tell you that aspect of it, that's not a Christian aspect. That's church. That's the church control aspect of it. And again, like, I know people are going to be offended by this, and that's not my intention, but sometimes those triggers help get to the root of things. So um we're not born a sinful, I mean, like your body, it's just a body. You know what I mean? It's just a vessel. It's not much different than a car in a sense, where it's like, this is just what you're using to maneuver through this human experience. It's never been sinful. It's just a body. I mean, it's your temple, like this is where you're operating this whole experience through. So the idea that you're born here as a sinner, like as if earth is already hell, and you have to pull yourself out of it, that is such a controlling concept to be told as a child, and we're not like we're infinite. We're expansive. We are everything. We're so connected to everything. We're all one thing that's just manifested here under the illusion of separation because we're each in individual bodies. And there's not really any connection that's lost because we're still on the other side. Um, I know that's going to be like kind of hard for a lot of people to comprehend. So I feel like, okay, so going back to near death experiences, I had a near death experience in 2004. I was stabbed, I got stabbed in the face, uh, and part of the knife crushed this eye, but it also cut my cranial sac. And so I went to the hospital and I had to have a spinal tap to get my cranial sac to heal. So basically, the spinal tap was supposed to drain all the brain fluid out so that it would take the pressure off my cranial sac and allow it to heal itself. Otherwise, they were going to have to go in and do surgery. And so I got a spinal tap and I was unconscious for 2 days. And during that time, I had a near death experience, I guess, of what you would call it, because I don't really think I was close to necessarily dying, but it was that experience. And I got an idea of like what the other side is, and it's like it's beautiful. I mean, it's like you're swimming in, I don't know how to explain it really with words because words don't really have a good definition of what it is. But if you can imagine, you know what it's like when you're walking through water that's like similar to your temperature, maybe a little bit warmer than you, and you can just the sensation that it has going over your skin, in which you feel like you're part of the water. It's like just a little bit off of your temperature enough that you can feel it. That's what it's like. You're that, and you're walking through love. It's all golden light and love, but you're moving through it and you feel the love, like your whole body's immersed in it. When I say body, you're a light body, because when you're on the other side, you're not the physical body anymore. And you're part of that light. And it's just that's the reality of who we are. So when people say love and light, and it's like this cliche term that people get, cringy about, that's who you are. And I know if you don't like that term, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to speak some truth to you. That's who you are to your core. That's your essence. That's who you are. Um, and so like that's where I stake my flag. That's who I am. That I'm not Sam. Like this is just me, temporary Sam, on the planet. So my stake where I am is that light being that is looking at this experience through the lenses of Sam, like if you were operating a robot kind of or something like that. Um, so I don't know, I guess I probably should touch on like my meeting with Fabian in order to explain like how I got to this realization.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's go for it.
All right. So okay. So in 2019, I uh there had been some things that were leading up. So between 2012 and 2019, I had a lot of experiences, a lot of really cool things happen. And then I'd moved to Oregon in 2017. And so it had gotten to a point where things started to speed up in a way, and not so much in a I like having encounters, but it was more like there was this I could just feel something coming up inside me. And there was like messages coming in, and they were from, it felt like a group of people, but almost like there was like one spokesperson that was speaking to me from like a group of people. And there was like, I don't know how to explain that. I'm sure that some people understand what I'm talking about. But so it was like a communicative, collective message coming through to me through one person. And I got in touch with Arla about this, and I was like, okay, here's what's going on. And she was like, and I remember, I'll never forget this, because there was one day when I was talking to her, and I was like, I feel like I'm about to explode with, just like so much energy. I just feel like so ecstatic. And she was like, you need to ground yourself. And I was like, oh man, I don't want to. Like, I love this feeling. Um, and so I did, and it calmed everything down, and I was able to start getting the messaging again. So I went camping with my family. And this was, I think it was Memorial Day weekend. And I went to a place that I had been to before. Um, and we set up camp, and I just knew, and there were hints. Arla said something that kind of gave me an idea that there was more to this. And so anyways, we set up camp, and we camped there for 3 days. And it was, I mean, it was miserable conditions, man. Miserable. We were about 6,000 feet up on this ridge in the mountains, clouds rolling in, rain. It was 34 degrees, so it wasn't quite snowing, but it was just cold, wet, windy, miserable conditions. Any normal, sane person would have left immediately. Um, but we made the best of it. We played games in the tent, played board games, and made food and laughed, and so on the second night, uh, I was sitting in the tent, or I was laying in the tent. Everybody was asleep, and in the valley below, I was awakened by this really loud tree snap or branch break or something. I mean, it was like wow, and it echoed, came up from the valley into, like, I was like, it woke me up, and I could feel my heart. Just that like adrenaline rush you get from something like that, and it was like, and I could, and so I was breathing in the cold air, and I could feel the cold air. I remember like breathing in the cold air and channeling it to my heart, and I could feel myself calming down. And then as I was calming down, I heard right next to, just outside the wall of the tent between me and my truck, I heard a whistle, and I knew somebody was there. I didn't hear them walk up, but I just heard the whistle. And um and I was like, oh, someone's here. And I laid there, and I was waiting to see what was going to happen, whether it was going to be verbal communication or like mind speak communication or whatever. And right about that time, because I remember trying to speak telepathically to whoever it was, and it was like this feeling of like, we don't have time for this, like no short talk, no small talk. And about that time, oh, this was such a cool thing. So I was laying there on my back. My sons were to my right, and my wife was kind of in the other side of the tent. And the I got I this was the coolest part. One of the coolest things. So my heart opened up, and I saw this light come out of this like globe come out of my heart, and it expanded outside of our tent. So it went through the tent, and it was like this globe dome of light, and it encompassed our tent. And now I understand that was it was our sacred safe space, right? So it was like a protection to keep us safe from what was about to happen. And just seeing that was like, so like, what was that, because it came out of my heart. And as soon as I knew, it went outside the tent, and I was like, huh. Like, that was wild. um she my teacher, Sasquatch teacher, named Vavion, and we and I don't know how to explain this with words, so you're gonna have to kind of bear with me to explain this. We went, and if you can imagine what it would be like to turn yourself inside out, and we traveled into my heart together. So like if you can imagine like an hourglass where everything went into this tiny little channel in my heart. and it was like a vortex of light, and we traveled through it and we came out on the other side. And on the other side was it was just like expansive infinity. It was a, okay. So when we first came through, I remember being kind of like the first place we came to was this it was like a dome or a coliseum, and I was standing in the middle of it, and it wasn't like super detailed, but there was like this, it was just this like golden hue, and I was walking through the middle of it, and that was where I felt that again, where it was like walking through water, but it was golden light and love, and it was everything. I mean, it was everywhere. It was me, it was everything around me, and it was just like wading through it, you know. And at one point I realized that I could float in it and fly. So it wasn't just that I was like stuck walking. I could like, I was like, oh wow, look. So I could like go up. And then I just kept going up and up and up. And there was like clouds, but this was all based off like a golden hue of light. So the clouds were like a little bit lighter gold. And it was like just flying through the clouds and being free and going through and going up and up and up. And then I came to a point where I had left that golden light, and I was kind of in not in darkness, but to a point where I was like, where did everything go? And I turned around and looked, and what I saw was like this. If you could look at the sun through those glasses or through a lens that blocks all the harmful rays that your eyes can't see, but you can actually see the sun. Like if you see a picture of the sun or something, and you're allowed to see like the way that it moves and how it's fluid, and there's just like that ball of energy and flames and whatever. That's what I saw. So that's where I came from when I first arrived there, and then I flew out of it, and I could see, and that golden ball, that golden light ball orb thing was us. And it was just knowing that like that is us. That's everyone from the planet, that everything that is here right now is there. And all of our spark, all of our light makes that place, right? That whatever that was at that time. And that was just such a like, oh wow. Um, I can't touch on this. I wish words could express this stuff more clear. They just don't, and they can't. And there's such a lack there. But so I went back. There was some information that was given to me in the form of like imaging and imagery. A lot of stuff that I've had to learn, a lot of light language, a lot of stuff that was just kind of like imprinted into me at the time. Maybe like a subconscious reprogramming of sorts. Maybe it was just a remembering. Maybe it was just me accessing the Akashic records or whatever it was. And it was just like if you could take like the biggest book you've ever seen and just scroll through it like it was like a flip book, you know, where there's just like things moving and it's like brrr, like just like so fast. That's how the images were coming to me. It was just like this, like the Encyclopedia Britannica of life, just in images, just, you know, just like coming. But and I remember thinking like, this is wild while it was happening, you know. So it was like this programming happening, and then she showed me her name, and it was Vabion, and it was like in these like a block letter stamp, and it kept moving like this into my thing. It was like, don't forget this. Like this was emphasized as like the name. And so then when we left, we came back, and as soon as we came back, I came back into my body. I remember sitting up in my tent and like rubbing my face and just being like, am I here? Like, am I back? Like, what's going on? And when I realized I was back, the first thought that went through my mind was, wow, all of this is bullshit. And I'll never forget that moment because it was just this realization that everything that we do, all of our drama and everything that we do in the world on this planet is just bullshit. It's just not important. You know what I mean? It's not as important as we think it is. And I know that's paradoxical to what we're talking about right now, right? Um, Trying to explain like how it is important to, heal and come to the realizations of how important your part you're playing in everything is. But the dramas and all the other unnecessary crap that we put on ourselves is just, it doesn't matter. Like none of that stuff's really important. Um, so I say that whole long story to explain of that was a connection to my near death experience. So those two places were that's the same. It's a connection to that, and it was just like a an affirmation to me of, no man, this is you. Like that's who you are. This right now, what you're doing right now, you came here to do this. This is important, but don't forget your roots. Don't forget who you are. And so that's why I say I have my stake. My flag is there. That's where I live. That's where I reside. So, so my perspectives on everything on the earthly plane are made from that perspective. So they don't make a lot of sense if you're looking at things from this plane, if that makes any sense. Um, so I guess I'm more of a big picture uh, experience, like perspective person. But
That's
That
pretty
was
cool.
amazing.
That's pretty cool.
yeah, so that was Vavion was who was when I say that I was getting messages, but they were coming through a person. It was Vavion, and that was our introduction. And her messaging is like a collective message, and she's more or less like she's my teacher. I mean, she's my communicator. She's um my humbler. If I get so.
So
Uh,
did she have a look about her, or was she a feeling thing? I mean,
um,
was she physical 3D or imaginary 3D?
no. So what I saw was I still have not seen her with my physical eyes. So I'll just be blunt about that. Like this wasn't like a physical eye encounter.
Or third eye?
This was like a etheric meeting. So what I've seen is she's like her energy is so grandmotherly and unconditional, supportive. So I say she's my humbler. You know what I mean? Like she's basically. It's not like you just get that feeling if you're doing something that you shouldn't be doing. It's just that it's the same feeling that your grandmother would do. She'd be like, "Boy, you better not do that." Um, but no, so the image that I saw of her, what I saw of her, was she. It's very grandmotherly looking. She's very beautiful, and she was wearing like this. She had like a what do you want to call it? Like a what do you? I don't know what to call it. Like a
Tiara?
ornament, kind of, but it
Bandana?
wasn't. No, it was more like I don't want to say tiara, but it was something like that. Like it was a ceremonial like headdress, but like um like a feminine looking one. I don't know how to explain that part. Maybe Arla, you might have a better word for what I'm trying to say.
But like it was light, basically. It was made from light. So, it I've seen different headpieces or whatever you want to call them on different ones. And it's like there's this wraparound that's almost part of them.
Right,
It's not exactly like it's attached, it's part of them.
right. Yeah, it wasn't like metal or anything like that. So that's why I don't want to say tiara because it didn't feel like it was like made out of a
Yeah.
metal or anything like that. It was just like a yeah. Because I guess on that level of creation, like metal and things like that aren't really like a thing, so to speak. I don't really know how to explain it, but so yeah, it was like it felt like yeah, it was part of her, but it was ceremonial. It was like something that kind of marked her as um, a guide or a teacher
Her
or something like that.
signature. It was
Right,
her signature of who she is.
right,
And,
right,
she is basically a very high vibrational light being.
right. Yeah, yeah,
And she emanates that.
yeah. Because it's her collective, it's her group too, right? And that comes through. So when you get to the higher planes of reality, it's almost like we merge back slowly into. So if you want to say like creator or source is like one thing, and then it branches off into two, and then four, and you know it just keeps branching off. So when you get to the higher dimensions, you're kind of merging back into, I don't know if you want to say like an oversoul or super soul. So like when we say our soul families,
Mm-hmm.
when you meet on the planet, at some point we're all connected back to an oversoul or super soul, which is like all of us as like a group.
Right, right,
And so from what my understanding is of her is like that's where she is. So she speaks as an individual, but she's part of a collective, a
right,
group.
right,
And
right.
she's definitely in the Sasquatch category,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
or,
I would
or
say,
just Illuminati, luminous being kind of category.
yeah, like what Arla calls like ancient ones, or not ancient ones, primal
Because
beings.
she
Now the
there was stick
primal,
break, and then there was whistle. So that's all kind of
Right. And
squatchy.
yeah, so I don't, not ancient one, but primal being is what I meant to say. So not necessarily Sasquatch, but kind of the same nature in a way. And when she comes around, she has someone with her, physical with her. So when she comes around, there is a physical Sasquatch with her. That from my experience of when she's been around a couple times. And when she is near, even if she's not technically in a physical form, there is someone there that is in physical form. And they, so that stick break I took as not her doing that, but whoever was with her did that to wake me up. And I have a picture of her. Um, you know how you take a picture and then they appear in the picture type scenario. She's in the picture and she's with a young male. And I don't know if that's who's always with her, but um, or if maybe she works with other males in different areas because I have experienced her in different areas. Anyways, so it's really it's a totally different thing than I expected having a Sasquatch teacher I was going to be like. Um,
She didn't. Well,
yeah.
she didn't have any other dress like robes or anything
I
like
didn't
that.
see that. I didn't see that much. I just saw from like basically shoulders up.
Yeah.
Some of the ancients who are primal people, which the term primal people came from Kashima years ago. And I was talking to him about, he is an ancient, but he told me we are a primal people. Now, a lot of people
Right.
think primal is primitive or something else, but in his term of primal, it's from the beginning, from
Right.
the point of that seed bursting. And whenever that is, that's an infinite thing, as well. Many of them do have not just a typical Sasquatch look,
No.
even though they have that within them.
Yeah.
And that's how it is with Kashima as well. He does have a Sasquatch personification,
Right.
of him that he will show, but that's not exactly what he looks like.
Right.
I know I had somebody wanted to do an AI of him, and of course I have a picture that someone had done artwork on from different things I'd said. And I knew at that point that's not exactly, exactly how it is, but it's okay.
Yeah.
And as hard as they tried, it was like they would try something and it would all fall apart. And she
Yeah.
finally just said, I can't do this.
Yeah.
I don't know what, and this person had done literally hundreds of AI things.
Right.
And it was like, I just left it. I knew that it was taken care of, whatever happened with her. And it was like, no, that
Yeah.
no, we don't need that. We
Right.
don't need that, and most people wouldn't understand it if they saw it.
Yeah.
And so these ancients, like, and I'm just using that loosely as a term, like V and Kashima and others, they never take a mate. They are in service to the universe as well as other universes.
Yeah.
So it's not like a typical teacher, a Sasquatch teacher that we would have to help us as a human. This is, they're doing other things.
Mhm.
They're not solely right here for
No.
our beck and call. They're
No.
doing other things.
Yeah.
And when the time is that we need something or they need something for us to know, then we know.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so, there, that is they are different than a lot of the Sasquatch teachers. It took me a little while to totally grasp that. Kashima would talk about it, and in my mind, well, he's a grandfather.
Okay.
And, I've had many lives with him as a part of my life, but it's more too.
Yeah.
And sometimes the thing he has to tell me, I know that when he does, it's important that I be putting that out there. The star people that I'm working with now, Kashima, of course, is a part of that. But there is now a grandmother here who would be like V and Kashima,
Yeah.
working with them as well.
Yeah.
So this world, oh my gosh, people, shift your paradigm, open up that heart and
Right.
see what the reality is.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I understand everything that you're saying right now because I have, I mean, I'm not, so I don't want to make it seem like I'm like this like illuminated being, and I'm like, because I'm not. I still get sucked
Yeah.
into being a human, and I've been told this by her: be a human, not just by her, but just be a human. You're there to be a human, don't don't forget that. So I still will, and I've asked her this many times, like, can I see you with my physical eyes? And it's always like it's like this, that doesn't matter what I look like. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, I know, but there's just this thing in me that I just the human in me wants to use my physical eyes
Yes.
to see you.
Yes. Yep.
And I asked her that the night we were introduced to each other, and she put me to sleep immediately. And it was just, it got this like feeling, it was like, I was like, well, can I come out of the tent and see you? And it was like, just go to sleep, just, you know, I was like, okay, um,
Uh,
and
yeah.
so,
There's
None of
something to be
us
said
are.
for that. There's something to
Yeah.
be said for that. Just be human.
Oh,
Is
yeah, definitely.
we have to make
right,
humans into the divine. it,
Right.
when
Right.
normal state is divine or sacred, then that's your baseline, and that's, it's a whole different
Yeah.
game.
Yep.
Right. Well, that's
And that existence, that human existence in itself is so special.
yeah. Well, that's kind of the messaging, that part of the emphasis to the messaging is when Mother Gaia is rising her vibrations, she's trying to get back to a point where um we can have those type of experiences again her on her scale, like on her plane of reality, her plane of vibrational reality that she's going to create, where those things that are affecting us right now, they won't exist. They won't vibrationally be able to exist at the resonance she will be at. And so the human experience at that point will be a totally different, higher vibrational, higher resonance experience. And that's kind of the emphasis when she says, be a human, that's what she's talking about. She's not
Yep.
talking about, like, I'm not saying don't go enjoy ice cream or anything like that, but she's not saying like, don't get caught up in the mess. Don't get caught up in the crap. Just keep your head above water and remember who you are as a human, and that you came here to have a human experience. You've just kind of been sidetracked and hijacked by other forces or entities that have kind of guided you off course. And just remember who
Those
you
are
are.
those were the hard classes that you
Yeah.
took. Those were the ones where you go, wait a minute. Are you
Yeah.
sure? I didn't know I was having a test.
Yeah.
Nobody
Right.
told me, I'm not prepared.
Right.
So all
Yeah.
of those things we learned from.
Yeah. What's the saying? School is a group of lessons followed by a test, and life is a group of tests followed with a lesson. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Because we don't see life moving forward. You can only see it looking back, like you can only get to a point and turn around and look back at what you've been through before you can realize that everything you've experienced got you to where you are and taught you everything that you know.
Mhm.
And that's the human experience, learning through experience, coming here to experience it and being like, man, I wonder what life would be like if I was, you know, uh, I don't, like the multitude of experiences that you could choose to be. I decided to
Yeah.
be this experience right now. So like, what if I just wanted to be a guy that wants to experience life in this body and this place and with my family and, that's the human experience. And yeah, that's the reminder of that on a daily basis. So that's the humbler, the don't forget who you are. Yeah. So, um, I mean, and so I say these things as like, we're going to be fine. Everything's
Hmm.
fine. Mother's
Yep.
going to be fine.
Yep.
She's going to go whether we want her to or not. Like she's going to move to where she wants to go because she is a sovereign being. And what we're doing is we're kind of affecting how quickly we're going to go with her. We can either slow the process down or we can just decide to come together and move up at a little bit faster pace. She's going to get there no matter what. We kind of affect how quickly our experience will be there with her, or if we're just going to drag it and act like some kids having a temper tantrum, dragging our feet and kicking and screaming and being like, I don't want to go, or you just accept that we've been lied to, we've been tricked, we've been manipulated into giving our power away. It's time for us to take our power back. It's time for us, put our big boy pants on and create the world that we really came here to create, which is um, almost like a physical representation of what we experience on the other side, which is love, compassion, supporting each other, learning to work together, not fighting against each other, and just remembering who we are, which is what the Sasquatch people teach us, you know.
Yep.
Because I will say, uh, there are some people in this process that their part of the or their piece of the puzzle is to learn about the Sasquatch people and share it with us. But that has not been mine. I've learned little bits about them and I've experienced little things about them along this path that every time just blows my mind away. But that's not been my piece. My piece has been more of like just remembering who I am and bringing that piece of me to this experience on Earth. Because I learned that from the beginning, and this is something Arliss touched on a lot. You go to learn about them, you learn about yourself. And when I dig real deep and I sink my heels into no, I want to figure out more about you guys, that's when they shut the information stream down. Not V or anybody like that, but the Sasquatch interactions that I have, they pull back almost like this no, he's getting too involved with us. We need to, you know, back up a little bit. And that took a lot to learn that part, you know, when I found my groups in Georgia that I worked with. And then I would go in there and try to interact with them and talk to them and then I'd be like, oh, they must not be here. And then I'd walk out of the woods, you know, and I'd get back to my car or my truck and you'd hear from that area, you just hear that knock like, bow. And it was just like, no, we were there. You know, we just didn't want to interact with you at the time. And that took a long time to try and not take that personally and understand that that's not what they're trying to do, you know. For me anyway, they're there to help awaken me and working like a catalyst of awakening. And there are different ways that they do it, you know, by tree structures and all those little things that they do to kind of pull people into wanting to learn more about them, in which you learn about yourself. It's a whole process. And it's
I
amazing
love that
process.
when you were talking about going into your heart,
Yeah.
because there's some actual physics involved in that. There's people who've explained how that vortex in the heart works, and you just described it perfectly. It was like what is it, like an hourglass where you go from this reality down into what seems to be a very narrow space, and then it
Mhm.
opens up.
Mhm.
And basically, you can put all the whole universe in what's in the other side.
Yeah,
And
right.
the other side is, in fact, the whole universe through that
Yeah.
transmorphication between one reality and another. The whole
Yeah.
universe is there, and the Earth is there herself.
Yep.
That I've seen that many, many times in my heart. Just when you go into the heart, just allow the picture, just the image of the Earth to come there, and then you're in this sort of like the Earth is smaller than you, and you're in reverence of the Earth, or you know, you're bigger than the Earth. That's kind of a nice place to be.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well,
You
everything.
can only do that with just really pure intentions, and you know, you want to love everybody. You want everything to be okay. Everybody should be healing, and everything should be, you know, no conflicts or suffering.
Right. Well, as within, so without. Right. So when I went within and I traveled to that side, and it's not like it's a long journey, man. It's right here. I mean, it's here, it's everywhere. It's just us. It's just this reality is like a projection of what's inside of us coming out. So what happened when going in was just reversing the flow back in because everything else for, so our inner worlds, our inner universes are projected out to this. So this physical reality that we're experiencing now, in which you can look out into the galaxy and see planets and stars and universes and everything like that, is just our inner projection out. And that's what reality is. That's what this whole experience is. So it was just such a realization to me of like this is really a dream to an extent, you know, and you hear people say that a lot. It doesn't really make sense to us, but this is like it's just a dream where things are slowed down to a physical state that you have sensory organs and you can touch things, which really you're not touching anything. It's just, like molecularly, you're just getting close to something else, like on a molecular level, that there's just more of it. So it feels like you're touching things, but it's just so cool, man. I don't really, I really wish that words could
That,
portray it all, you know,
yeah.
because
That's what
sometimes I,
Kashima said. You humans love your words when
yeah,
sometimes there are no words, no
right.
words that we understand, but I still know what you're saying
Mhm.
because I can feel into that. And I'm sure Michael can too. You don't have to express it in words,
Right,
and
right.
you're with people who understand that.
Hmm.
And that's part of the joy of being with people who understand, because you don't have to go into this long explanation. You can just sit there and smile and look at each other. You just,
Yeah,
you
totally.
know,
Hmm.
it's the best high I've ever been on. And I've never used drugs or smoked marijuana or anything else,
Hmm.
but it is just that feeling of total connection, of total understanding. You don't
Hmm.
even have to think about it. It's
Hmm.
it's there. You
Yep.
feel it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's um so when people say like you got to open your heart, I've heard a lot of people say that, and then a lot of people say, what does that even mean? And we say it as like you just got to open your heart. You got to go into the woods and open your heart up. And people are like, what does that mean? I get that. I understand what they're, because it's very vague, and um I still don't really know how to put it in a way in which people really understand what it means. But it's um I mean, there's a lot it has to do with your energy centers, your chakra system, and how, if you don't understand how that stuff works or believe in that stuff, sure, me saying open your heart, you're not going to understand what that means. So a lot of the some of the messaging, going back to the messaging that I've received lately, is about these cataclysmic events that are happening. And a lot of this stuff fits into like end of times type stuff, where it comes to like prophecies and things like that. And in which, if you read the prophecies about like, like volcanoes and earthquakes, and rain, and it sounds really doom and gloom, right? It sounds really like, oh my God, that sounds terrible. But what it is those are opportunities to break our hearts open, to force our hearts open, right? And so a lot of times people have heart opening experiences by hitting rock bottom. And so if you look at like a unilome or whatever, where it's like the travel down, you hit rock bottom, and then you journey your way back up. A lot of these things that are happening right now with these climate catastrophes, earthquakes, wars, things like that, what those are doing, those are working as catalysts to break us open, to get to a point where we're like, I can't do this anymore. And it breaks your heart open, and it's painful. But in that is love. And it's like grief, but grief is love. It's just it doesn't have anywhere to go. So you can't send it directly to that person anymore because the person's not here. And so it sits here and it hurts, but that's just compressed love. It's just condensed into like a place, and you don't know where to express it or where to give it to. And so when your heart breaks open, you just give it out to everybody unconditionally, even people that piss you off. Love them. That need that given you grief, your whole life. Just love it. It's just part of your experience. Um, that was the lesson I got a couple of years ago too. Was just love it, and I heard that was a message that was told to me during dream time. Love it,
Yep.
and because a lot of my messaging is like 2 or 3 words, but with an understanding attached to them, and it was just love it, and it was like everything. I don't care If it's like a political rival that you can't stand to see their face on the television
Yeah.
screen, love them,
Still gotta love
just
them.
love them. And yeah, so these experiences are forcing us to break our hearts open, because otherwise, if we were just comfortable all the time, why would you need to do that? If you're just comfortable and you're sitting in your comfy little couch and you've got food brought to you all the time, like why would you need to do anything else? So being put in these positions for people to be uncomfortable breaks your heart open, and that allows your energy, going back to my first experience with like the Shaktipat Kundalini. So your chakra systems, there's 7 chakras in your body. The 3 lower ones that we have are for your human experience, more or less, right? So your heart is the 4th, which is like in the center, and then you have your throat, third eye, crown. Your heart is kind of like a gateway to accessing these higher chakras. And so in order to really access these and then bring this energy down into your lower third humanly experienced chakras, you have to open your heart. And at the same time, if you can get your heart to fully open, that's when source love, that love that I experienced when I went to the other side and got to swim in it, so to speak, that is able to come through directly through you into the world. And I experienced this firsthand in 2013 when I got back to Georgia after my first experience. And I started getting hints that there was a group in an area that I was riding my mountain bike in. And I went back and kept going back. And every time I'd go back, I'd find new tree structures. And so one day I went and I was like, well, I'm just going to talk to them, because I know that they were watching me, because they would do tree structures and they would see me looking at the tree structures. And then every time I go back, there'd be new ones. So I knew that they were liking that I was noticing these things. So I kept going back. And one day I went back and I walked back and I walked to each individual tree structure I thought, and I was telling them what I appreciated most about each one. And I really liked how you did this. And I don't know how you did this part on this tree, but that's really awesome. And they had actually taken one tree that was like a 30-foot pine tree, and it was broken in half, and they had made an X out of it, and they had used vines to tie the centers and the ends to other trees. And when I say that, like, some people be like, oh, people did that. No, this was like this, you would have to take a crane to pick this thing up. I mean, this was like a tree that was, giant pine tree. And so I remember talking to them about that. And so I remember saying something, and I heard these footsteps come up behind me. And it was a crunch, crunch, crunch. And I stopped talking and I looked behind me, but I didn't see anybody. And then, so while I was looking behind me from this other angle, I heard more footsteps, like crunch, crunch, crunch in the leaf litter. And I turned around and looked at that one. And when I looked at that one, another set of footsteps came up from behind me. So again, the number 3 came walking up. And so every time I would look at those, trying to see if I could see somebody, the other one behind me would come closer. And it kept, being the gullible human I was at the time, I just kept falling for it. Every time I'd look over here and they'd get closer. So it got to a point where there was 3 individuals, they were within 10 feet of me, and I couldn't see anything. This tripped me out so much, because I could hear them as if they were right there. And I swore I could see the leaves being depressed. I don't know if I just imagined that part of it, but they were there. There was no denying that part. But there was nothing in front of me. I couldn't see anything, other than the trees and stuff. And so at one point, I remember just being like, I said, "Hello," like I don't know what else to say. And this, like, I was like enveloped with love. It just came from everywhere, and it was that, not quite as intense as it was on the other side where I could feel like me wading through it, but it was like everywhere, and it came into my body, and it was like the whole area just shifted into this like love. And I stood there, and I remember I had this huge like shit eating grin on my face, but I was crying at the same time. And I was like, oh my God. And it makes me teary just thinking about this. And I just sat there and I was like, I think I probably was even like, whoa, you know. And then it probably lasted about 30 seconds or a minute, and then it just stopped. And there was a message that said, you can go now. And I was like, okay. And so I just left. And uh that so my understanding now of these things, at the time it took me a long time to come to this realization. When I say you open your heart, and if you can open it up wide enough, you can bring that source love through you into the world. That's what these three beings did. They brought it straight to me. And I was like, that moment was my chasing the dragon moment for me, because I have been chasing that feeling ever since. And it's hard to find it here on the planet, you know? And so in order to do that, that kind of is what forced me to go within to find it. And it's there. And then they're like, hey, now that you know where it is, it's your job to bring it here. I'm like, all right.
Yeah,
So,
that's cool.
yeah.
You know, one of the keys for people when they're out in the woods, and, and of course, I tell people all the time, shift your paradigm, open your heart, gratitude.
Yeah.
Gratitude is
Yeah.
a key
Yeah.
to open the heart, because when you're in gratitude, oh my gosh, it lifts you,
Mhm.
and you feel that vibration of that.
Mhm.
And, I've told people, when you're in the woods, don't think about, am I going to see one? Am I going to hear this? Just go in, look at the trees,
Right.
look at the ground, look
Mhm.
at everything around you. What an awesome thing that is. And be in gratitude for just being there. And that works for everything, even bringing that feeling of love back to you. Because I know if I'm into gratitude, then things happen.
Mhm. Yeah.
And it's not a forced gratitude, it's a gratitude. And
Right.
when I was given the light codes video, I was so into gratitude and thankfulness, and my heart was so open, and I was so full before that happened. And
Yeah.
so I was vibrationally in the space to receive that, to be there as that was manifesting. And
Yeah.
everybody can be in that space.
Right.
It just takes understanding that gratitude is such a special thing, and it takes that gratitude takes you from being a victim to being a winner.
Mhm. Right.
Because when you're in that gratitude moment, there's no victim, no anything else. It's just such a wonderful space to begin to open yourself.
Yeah. And not necessarily gratitude for like material objects, so to speak,
No,
you know. It's gratitude for everything. Like love it. Like the message I got, love it. It's gratitude for the things that suck, the things that are made, like it's everything. I mean, just being grateful for this experience, this opportunity. Um, Grateful to have a house, you know, like a roof over my head, and I may not have the nicest car in the world, but I have a freaking car, you know, and I'm just being able to ride my bike is like brings me so much gratitude. Just anything. It's that, yeah, that ability to find the things to be grateful for rather than dwelling on the things that sense of lack or whatever that you know. And um yeah, the the manifestation experience itself and manifesting what you want here or what we want here is a lot of that. It's part of that. It's
Mm-hmm.
because the process of it is like experience like feeling it, but it's also acting on it. So the universe, the way that things work here is like it kind of, and when I say universe, I don't mean like the galaxy. I mean like source, creator, this experience in general. It it's like an algorithm, and it pays attention to what you want, whether. And so, trying to put this again, words fail me at this moment, but it's listening to you, it's listening to your thoughts, and it's listening to your feelings, and it's listening to your actions, and it is responding in a way to those things. So much like how an algorithm on social media works, where if you start clicking on things, it's going to start giving you more of that stuff, right? Because it's like, oh, he likes this, so it's going to start showing you more of that, and then you get to a point where you're like, oh man, I accidentally clicked on one thing, and now I just have like all of this stuff in my feed.
Yeah.
That's how manifestation works. And so going back to messaging, when these conspiracy theories come in, or just the manufactured conspiracy theories, I'll touch on that point. So these are manufactured, they're made up, they're all farce conspiracy theories. There are real conspiracies. I'll go back to that. I understand some are real, but the truth and the fact that there are some real conspiracies is what makes conspiracy theories like valuable as a source of manipulation.
Yeah.
And so if you see something and say it has like this, and like Mad Libs, I've said that before. If anybody remembers Mad Libs, like the little book that has like a story and it has like adjective, adverb, noun, and you add these things in to make like a funny story. A lot of these things look like that, right? It'll have like this something happened by this blank, and it's like insert whatever political party you want to, and then in this area, and then it's like whatever catastrophe is going on at the time because there's this person, and you read it and you're like, that political party I don't like, that person I don't like, that area, blah blah blah, and it triggers you, which breaks you down into confirmation bias, of which you're like, oh, this has to be real because it's proving exactly what I've been thinking this whole time, and then you get self-righteous, and then you're like, wow, I can't let this stand. And so you're thinking it, you're feeling it, and each step is more and more energy that you're putting into it. You think about it, and you feel it, more energy. And then when you act on it as if it's already existing and it's real, that's when you're putting all of your power into that. And that's when the universe is like, oh well, we gotta make this because he believes it. He's thinking this is happening. So we have to do whatever we can to make it, appear to reflect or project back to me as if this is really happening. And this is a creation as you go type scenario. And you get a bunch of people that start thinking these things, and it creates these timelines that go off course, right? And that takes power away from dominant timelines. And eventually they will merge back because that timeline will end at some point. But in the meantime, it just weakens the dominant trajectory. I know this makes sense to some people.
Yeah.
This might go over a lot of people's heads. I understand that. But going back to what Arla told me a long time ago, like just keep it in your pocket. Don't like throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah.
Just sit with it. Keep it in your pocket.
Oh, your
We
sound
lost
just went out there.
we lost you.
Lost your sound for a minute.
Can't hear you. Good show.
Well, I'm feeling it. I'm kind of like floating over here.
Good show.
Well, I'm feeling it.
Uh,
Yeah, it's freezing up a little bit. You okay there, Sam?
oh,
Well, We're right at 2 hours. I don't know if we're going to be
Yeah,
able to bring him
maybe
back.
we'll get him back in a minute. We'll see.
I'm thoroughly enjoying this, but this is I'm so glad we have this type of a show because people need to know that this is another side of Sasquatch. You know that it's holy, divine, sacred. It's Mother Earth. It's the way it's supposed to be. You know, it's indigenous.
Yeah, there. Ah, there we go.
There you go.
Ah,
Oh, can you guys hear me now?
yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know what happened.
too much energy,
Sorry about that. I guess so. Something.
too much bliss for the
It's
the for the evil systems management. It's too much bliss.
right. It's
I
just
can't take this. Give me a
Yeah.
crap.
The
right.
evil systems manager would be shaking in their boots if they were even anywhere near here at this point.
Yeah. So anyways, I don't know if I cut out while I was in the middle of talking, but
It's been awesome, Sam. I knew it would be. I didn't have any doubt that today wouldn't be uh, monumental
yeah.
for so many people. You know,
This
every time we do this show, and from doing a show as well that what your intent is to help
Mhm.
in whatever way that you feel you are supposed to help, and you help yourself, and in turn that helps everybody.
Right. Yep. Got to change the world by
special
changing yourself.
show for special needs people.
Yeah, it's true. Oh man. Well, yeah. I don't know how long we've been on for. I know you
Two
two
guys.
hours.
hours
What? Already? Holy
Yeah.
crap. Okay,
Yep,
maybe that was
Right when you cut out, it was 2 hours.
yep,
see. Uh, well, that's what we had talked about before,
yep, that's what.
right?
Well, if you
So
got something else to
Yeah, maybe
say, just go ahead and say it. If not, we're going to
nah.
say goodbye, everybody, from the Pork and Beans Show,
Um,
which was the best show ever. But if you got something else to say, then
yeah.
put the icing on the cake.
Um, yeah. Just be nice to yourself. Be
mm,
nice to everyone right now. Be understanding, be compassionate with yourself and with everyone else right now.
yeah,
Um, it's tough times. Um, I don't know what is going to happen in the next few
yep,
weeks or months. Just try to not get caught up in the bullshit,
yep,
for lack of a better term, and
yep,
just try to come back to who we are as humans, and
yep,
not get caught up in the polarity and the divisiveness and everything right now. Just you know how it is if like a catastrophe happens and everybody all of a sudden loses that stuff and they all come together to help each other out, right? Like that's where we should be right now. We should just let go of all that other
yep.
stuff.
Yep, because that's all it is. It's just stuff, and
Right.
it's learning. Somebody had posted, what are you going to be doing after next week? And
Right.
I said, well, I'm going to be walking in the woods. I'm going to be drumming and
Right.
singing, and I'm going to be being peace and love and
Mhm.
sending that out. And whatever comes, I know that I will choose what I need to choose.
Mhm.
And that's where we all uh, need to be. And I'm not going to look at anything or anyone, regardless of what's done by whomever.
Right.
I'm going to send them love. So You know, that's what I know I can do.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna get to where we're going no matter what. All we're really choosing right now is how fast we're gonna get there
Yep.
and
Yep.
how smooth of a trip it's gonna be or how bumpy of a trip it's gonna be. That's pretty much it.
Yep.
So just stay on your path, be love and light, love it, and I'll see
And
you
as
guys.
freaking chicken says, share the love, you animals.
Right. Share the love.
Yeah, you know, when you go down the rabbit hole with a conspiracy theory, right? Well, that's kind of interesting because that's truth to lies. You know, another conspiracy is in 9/11, truth to lies. Kennedy got killed, truth to lies. You know, all these wars that we have and corruption and all this kind of stuff. This is all truth to lies. And
Right.
you know, the government has failed us again and again and all this kind of stuff, which is good. So you have truth to lies, but you can't live on truth to lies. You gotta have
Right.
the truth of life, which is who you are.
Right.
And when you go to that's a good conspiracy, truth to life.
Right. Right. Yeah. Let's create good conspiracies. Yeah. Let's conspire to love each other. Let's conspire to
Yep.
be nice to each other, you know.
Yep.
Let's just not live in fear. Just heal to a point where fear isn't going to control you anymore. It's not going to control your decision making. You can make it from the heart and not worry about. I mean, I understand it's paradoxical and it seems simple. It's not. It's not. I get that, but you keep trying. You keep doing it. You keep going back. You know, step off the path a little bit. Just dust yourself off and get back on the path. You know, you just keep going.
Yep.
So, yeah. So yeah, that's it. I love you guys. Thank you for having me on.
Thank
Oh
you so
gosh, love
much.
you too.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, lead us
Uh,
out, Michael.
Pork and beans over and out.
Bye.
Bye.
Hope everybody has some nice dessert today.
Oh, I'm going to.
Yeah.
I'm going back out in the rain and finish getting my hair wet. So
This light code activation video came to me from a group of star people, Sasquatch ancients, and others who are working together to help support the earth and humanity. I was allowed to video this transmission as they knew I would share it in a good way. May it bless you as you open up your heart through your higher self to receive. Many blessings to you.
way ah hey oh way ah way ah hey oh elo Elohim way ah way hey yo way ah way ah hey oh way ah way ah hey oh elo Elohim, away, away, yo. Way, 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 hey, oh, Elo, Elohim, oh, way, hey, yo.